What would you do if you drove 80 miles down a road you've mowed for 25 years and passed the same mile marker 3 times? I'm Silas Mortis. I go where the internet doesn't get scrubbed. Down in the dark web's basement forums, people post things they never signed their names to. Confessions, incident reports, last messages. I read them so you don't have to. I picked the ones that are real. Tonight's came out of an archived, locked thread on the Reddit hub r/nosleep, mirrored to a private board 11 days before the original account was deleted by someone who wasn't the account holder. It's called Mile Marker 9. Now, let's get into the story. There are 80 miles of Route 12 in Collie County, Nebraska, and I have cut the ditches on every one of them since I was 19 years old. That's not bragging. There's nothing to brag about. Route 12 runs west out of Delft past the grain co-op, past the Sinclair with the dinosaur missing its tail, and then it just goes. Corn on the right until it's beans on the right. A shelter belt, a dead cottonwood with a coyote nailed to it by somebody's grandfather in a year nobody remembers. 80 miles of nothing, but nothing has furniture in it if you sit in it long enough. I know every marker by its dents. Marker 4 leans east because Randy Ox put a Bronco into it in '99, and the county straightened it with a chain and a bad attitude. Marker 22 has 3 22 holes in a triangle, like a smiley face with no mouth. Marker 51 is newer than the rest, brighter green, a stranger, and I still don't like it. Marker 9 has a dent at the bottom shaped like a boot heel, and it leans about 6 degrees toward the ditch. And there's a rust-colored streak running down from the 9, like the sign is bleeding out of its own mouth. I've known that streak longer than I've known my wife. Corinne wraps my sandwich in foil every morning. Egg and Wonder Bread, 1 slice of American, cut on the diagonal, because she says the diagonal makes it taste different, and she's right. She folds the foil the same way every time. A hospital corner, a little tab at the end for my thumb. 22 years of that tab. She sets it in the blue igloo with a Coke and 2 ibuprofen in a snack bag because she knows about my back, and I've never once told her about my back. That's the whole marriage right there. That's more than I could say in a paragraph. I go out at 5:30. Diesel first, coffee second, radio third. The county gave me a deer with a sidearm and a cab that smells like hot dust at WD-40, and I run it at 4 miles an hour with my left hand on the wheel and my right hand on the boom. And I cut the ditch down clean so a kid coming out of a field road can see a semi coming. That's the job. That's the whole point of the job. So people can see what's coming. This spring, the grass came in early and mean, fescue up past the mirrors by the 2nd week of May, and I was behind before I started. Tuesday. I remember because Dwayne Pelkey, my foreman, 20 years my junior, keeps his sunglasses on his hat like he's in a country video. Dwayne had radioed at 7 asking where I was at, and I said marker 8, and he said copy. And that was the last normal thing anybody said to me. At 7:40, I passed marker 9. At 8:15, I passed marker 9. I stopped the boom, sat there with the diesel knocking, looked at the dent, boot heel, looked at the lean, 6 degrees, looked at the rust streak coming down out of the 9 like a nosebleed. Now here's the thing you have to understand about a county road crew. We're always the last to know. The state does a survey, the state moves a marker, the state doesn't call. Spring of '08, they resigned the whole East End, and nobody told me until I'd mowed past a marker 63 that had been marker 61 on Friday. So I keyed the mic and I said, Dwayne, anybody out here setting sign? Static. Then Dwayne chewing something. Setting sign on 12? Ross, we can't get a culvert. Nobody's setting sign. There's 2 9s. Long pause. Long enough for me to hear him decide something about me. 2 9s, he said. Same dent. Longer pause. Then, careful, the way you talk to a man on a ledge. Ross, when's the last time you took a day? I hung the mic up. I want to be fair to Dwayne, because at that point I was thinking the exact same thing he was thinking. My father went out at 61. Not his heart, his wiring. It started with him calling me by his brother's name, and it ended with him standing in the yard at 4 in the morning in his good church coat, waiting for a bus that had stopped running in 1974. The doctors had a word for it. The word cost $1,100. There's a card in my visor. Neurology, Kearney, June 3rd, 2:15 p.m. It's been in the visor since March. It's gone soft at the corners from me pulling it out and putting it back. Corinne doesn't know about the card. Corinne knows about my back, which is how I know she'd know about the card if I let her. So when I saw 2 9s, I didn't think the road is wrong. I thought I'm the thing that's wrong. And I felt something in my chest go loose and cold, like a tooth coming out. I mowed on. At 9:02, I passed marker 9. The third one was different. The third one had my truck parked in front of it. It was my '04 F-150, primer on the fender where the county salt got in. The ladder rack Corinne's brother welded crooked. It was idling, blue smoke curling off the tailpipe, thin, the way it does when it's been running a while. Driver's door open, radio going, some ad for a farm auction in Ord, a man's voice hollering about tillage equipment. All cheer, no listener. I climbed down. My legs didn't feel like a stroke. My legs felt like legs. Wind coming across the beams, meadowlarks somewhere doing that fluty 3-note thing they do. I looked in the cab. The seat had a shape in it. You know what I mean? The way vinyl holds you, the low spot where a man sits year after year until the foam gives up and agrees to be him. It was warm. I put my hand on it and it was warm as a dog. There was a thermos in the cup holder, capped. There was foil balled up on the passenger seat. I looked at that balled foil for a long time because my sandwich was in my cooler, on the mower, 20 feet behind me unopened, with the little tab folded for my thumb. And I looked in the visor for the card because I needed to know whether this truck was mine or a truck like mine. And the card was there, soft at the corners, June 3rd, 2:15 p.m. And behind the card, I hadn't looked behind it in 25 years, was a Polaroid. 2 men in front of a county deer. One of them is 19 and doesn't know what his face is for yet. The other one is maybe 60, sunburned to the color of a brick, arm around the kid like he's holding him up. Cliff Hardaway, my trainer. My first 2 weeks on this road. I hadn't thought about Cliff in years, and that's a lie, and I'd like to tell it anyway. Here's what happened to Cliff Hardaway in the summer of 1994, according to Cawley County. He walked off. That's the file. Man had a divorce going and a drinking thing. And one Tuesday in July, his truck was found on the shoulder of Route 12, idling. Driver's door open, thermos capped in the cup holder. Sheriff figured he crossed the beans to Sawyer Creek and went in. They dragged it. They found a cooler and a boot. They didn't find Cliff. His sister put a cross out there with plastic carnations zip-tied to it. And every year the sun ate the color out of them until they went the white of old bone. And every year I mowed around that cross without slowing down. Because I'm the one who found the truck. 19 years old. 2 weeks on the job. I put my hand on that seat and it was warm as a dog. And I did not tell one living soul that part. Not the sheriff, not Corinne, not the man at the funeral with no body in it. Because a warm seat means he was there 10 minutes ago. And if he was there 10 minutes ago and the beans were empty in every direction, then I was going to have to think about it for the rest of my life. So I filed it under nothing. Route 12 has a lot of nothing in it. I told you, nothing has furniture. I got in my truck. I'm going to be honest with you about the next part because there's no version of it where I look like a man in control. I left the deer in the ditch with the key in it and the boom down, and I got in that truck and I drove east toward Delta, toward the co-op and the Sinclair in my house with the porch light Corinne leaves on even in June. Marker 8 went by, marker 9 went by. I checked the mirror. The deer sat there in the ditch, getting small, exactly where I left it. Good. Fine. That's what things do when you drive away from them. Marker 9 went by. The deer sat there in the ditch, getting small. I put my foot down, 70, 80. The truck shook the way it does past 75. The ladder rack humming, and the beans went by in that green pull that makes your eyes water. And I hit 95 and the odometer rolled up and up and up. And marker 9 went by, boot heel dent, 6-degree lean, rust running out of the 9 like a nosebleed. And my own mower sitting in my own mirror getting small, getting small, getting small. I drove till dawn. Let me say that again, and I want you to hear the shape of it. I drove till dawn, and it never got dark first. The sun sat up there at that hard 9 a.m. angle, that flat white Nebraska light that doesn't come from anywhere in particular, and it did not move, and the meadowlark did its 3 notes, and did its 3 notes, and did its 3 notes. I ran the tank to E. I ran it past E. That truck ran on E for 4 hours because there was no gas in it and no need for gas in it. And somewhere in there I understood that I had not been driving toward Delft. I had been driving around the inside of something, like a fly in a Coke bottle. I want to tell you about the mileage because it's the part that gets me at 3 in the morning. Route 12 in Cawley County is 80 miles. Ask anybody. It's on the sign at the co-op, welcome to Delft. Gateway to the 80. There's a t-shirt. The county's own plat book says 79. I found that out in '02 and I laughed about it. Clerical thing. Some surveyor's bad Tuesday. Sitting on the shoulder with a needle on E and the sun nailed to the sky, I did the arithmetic I'd been not doing for 25 years. 79 miles on paper, 80 in the world. The road grew a mile. It grew it in 1994, and it was hungry again. I got out and I walked back to my mower, and I climbed up in the cab, and the seat took me the way it always does. And I sat there with my hands on the wheel, and I waited, because there was nothing else in the world to do. That's when the pickup came over the rise. Primer on the fender, crooked ladder rack. It pulled onto the shoulder behind my deer, easy, no hurry, and a young man got out, 19 years old, skinny in the shoulders, and that way that hasn't finished. Cheap sunglasses. He was chewing gum with his mouth open and looking around at 80 miles of nothing like it had insulted him personally. I knew that face. I've shaved that face. It's just been a while since it looked back. He walked right past my cab. He walked past me, close enough I could see the gum, spearmint, could see the sunburn starting on the back of his neck where he hadn't learned about the collar yet. And he went to the driver's door of that idling truck and looked in at the seat. I hit the glass. I hit it with the flat of both hands and I screamed at him. And what came out of me wasn't my voice. It was low and it was ruined. And it had a smoker's crackle in the bottom of it, and it belonged to a man who went into Sawyer Creek in 1994 and never came out. The kid didn't hear it. But he stopped. He stopped, and his shoulders went up around his ears the way a man's do when a room gets cold. And he stood there a second with his hand hovering over that warm seat, and then I watched him do it. I watched him decide it was nothing. Then he got back in his own truck, and he pulled out and he drove east toward Delft and the co-op and a porch light. And he filed it under nothing, and he took my whole life with him. I opened my cooler. I want to end on this because the sign and the sun and the voice, those are just facts. This is the part that's true. Corinne wraps my sandwich in foil, 22 years. Hospital corner, little tab for my thumb. What was in my cooler was wax paper, folded flat and creased twice with a thumbnail, the way my mother did it, the way she did it in the summer of 1994 when I was 19 years old and had a job with the county and a whole life out in front of me like 80 miles of road. I ate it. It was good. It was exactly like I remembered, which is how I knew. I mow 1 mile now, forever. The grass comes back behind me as fast as I cut it. I've watched it happen. You can see the blades stand up in the mirror like a crowd that won't sit down. The dent still in the sign, the lean still 6 degrees. The rust streak isn't rust, I know that now. But I mow past it 4 miles an hour and I don't look because that's the deal. Cliff didn't look either. That's the whole trick of it. And it's so simple I could cry. The road doesn't take men who see it coming. It takes the ones who file it under nothing. Somewhere behind me, a young man is starting to count. He'll count for 25 years. He'll know every marker by its dents. He'll marry a woman who wraps his sandwich with a little tab for his thumb. And he'll have a card in his visor he won't tell her about. And one Tuesday in a spring with mean grass, he'll come over the rise and see 2 9s. And he'll key the mic and somebody young will ask him when's the last time he took a day. And I'll be standing right there. And I'll scream with a stranger's voice. And he won't hear a thing. Route 12 is 80 miles long now. Ask me again next spring. If this one got under your skin, do me a favor. Hit that like button. It costs you nothing. And it tells YouTube to put this story in front of somebody else who's driving home alone tonight. Subscribe, because I'm here with a new story every single day, and share this with someone who needs it. you know exactly who they are. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. There's another story waiting for you on your screen right now. I'm Silas Mortis. I'll see you tomorrow.